Hello people. Today we're going to be looking at memorialisation. This is basically the short version, okay, of some very long and complicated slides that I have seen on your website. So let's make a start. Now our first concept and our learning aims is that you need to be able to define the word memorialisation. You need to be actually able to outline why that's important. And I want us to be able to describe two memorials. The first is the Anzac Memorial in Hyde Park, and the second is the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington. I want you to be able to compare the two memorials, identifying the things that are similar, and I want you to contrast the two memorials, and you'll identify things that are different. So let's get on with it. Now, first thing we should do is I want you to understand the meaning and the origin. I'll just push this over here. Of the word memorial. In it, it has this M-E-M. Now, that means that it comes from a Roman word called memore, which actually meant call to mind. And we have that sense of call to mind in many words that have M-E-M in them. So on this screen, we have some examples. There's remember, there's memory, there's memorial, and there's commemorate. So people, if you see M-E-M, think this has something to do with calling to your mind or remembering something. Now let's move on. I want you to take out your sheets and let's make a start. Now our key concepts are to think about, firstly, what is memorialisation? And that review refers to the ceremonies and the objects that we use to remember any event. A memorial is simply an object designed to remind people of an event, and commemoration is a collective act of remembrance. If you look down at your sheet, you'll see I've marked commemoration and collective, the C-O, in red. That's because C-O at the beginning of the word as a prefix normally means something done by more than one person. So when we commemorate, we remember as a community. Now people, from this point in this video, I want you to have your sheets in front of you. You can listen and read and then fill in the words. When you want to stop or you need to stop, just press pause. So our main focus is war memorials. And war memorials are intended to remind the viewer of those people who served in war. Memorials are usually designed to recall a particular conflict or war, and they are intended to show respect for the men who took part. War memorials are intended to help the viewer to understand the event, and they use both words and symbols to convey their messages. Now on the screen, if you look up, we have two memorials. The first is an old one from ancient times. And in ancient times, war memorials often showed the leader. And this leader here is called Julius Caesar. So old war memorials tended to commemorate important victors. Since World War I, most war memorials tend to commemorate more ordinary men and women who served in war. Some deliberately commemorate an unknown soldier. So here we have somebody and he's not named. Many war memorials were commissioned by a government whose citizens fought in that war. The money paid in taxes is used to build these kinds of memorials over here. And the location, the materials, and the symbolism of each memorial is carefully considered. War memorials help to create a sense of national identity. They tell us what our people have done in the past. Okay, people, if you look down on your sheets, there's some words to fill in. Make sure you have them filled in, and then move on. Now, when we look at war memorials, we can see some common features. War memorials are often found in large or capital cities, and that's partly because they will be seen by large numbers of people. It's also it's also often a symbol, because symbolically important events are represented in important cities. Those who died, this young chap here, are often showed as young and attractive. So they're represented as being someone we might think of as handsome. They're shown as being young. And the viewer is encouraged to feel a sense of loss. We feel a sense of the waste and the sacrifice in war. So memorials are intended to commemorate the fallen, and they frequently represent the soldiers as heroes, like this brave chap here. So memorials are intended to ensure that citizens of today, of the present, do not forget the deeds or the sacrifices of the past. We should remember, and there are 3 words we often say, lest we forget. That expression is from a poem, and lest is a very old word, and it means, as close as I can give you, it means don't do it. It's a prohibition, so you must not forget. Okay, people, at this point, I want you to pause. Write down in the boxes beneath a definition of the word memorial, a definition of the word commemorate, and add one more definition of your choice. I would suggest commemoration, but if there's a word in the text above that you prefer, add it in. Underneath that, I want you to summarize in your own words what is memorialization. You do not need to give any examples. Just think of a good summary of why we try to remember past events, and particularly events such as war. Okay, people, if you have completed your writing tasks, let's move on. We are going to travel now into the centre of Sydney to Hyde Park, and we're going to look at the Anzac Memorial in Hyde Park, sometimes called the Hyde Park Memorial. So this image shows the Anzac Memorial at Hyde Park in Sydney, and Sydney is the capital city of New South Wales, so it's an important city. This memorial is found or located in the very centre of the city, so that it can be seen by many people. It has been located so that many citizens are encouraged to remember World War I. Now, this memorial commemorates the Anzacs who fought in World War I. Underneath, as its main structure, it's actually made of concrete, but it is covered in a pink granite. Granite is a very hard, durable stone. Now, in front of the memorial, in this area here, what we have is called the Pool of Reflection, and it was built at the same time to enhance the memorial, and it is to remind the viewers of France, where lots of battles were fought near important rivers. Now, the pool is surrounded by 2 rows of trees. You can see a row here. And these trees are called tulip trees. And again, they're a species, a type of tree that grows in France. Now, this memorial here is designed as a ziggurat. So its design is of an ancient temple. Down here on the side, you can't quite see them in this image, there are reliefs. And these show, or these depict, where Australians fought in the Middle East. So these reliefs, which are carved into the stone, show scenes at Sinai, Palestine, and they also show the landing at Gallipoli. So on your sheets, if you look down, you have an example of one of those reliefs. Now let's move inside the actual monument. Keep your sheets with you. As we move inside, when one of the many members of the public who've been allowed to enter the memorial since it first opened in 1934. And inside, the ceiling dome, the roof of the structure, is painted with stars. and these stars are called stars of memory. They represent the men and women from New South Wales who served in the First World War. There are 120,000 stars. Inside the memorial, there is also a circular area called the Well of Contemplation. In the centre of this circle, the circular area here, if you look down, you will find a sculpture called Sacrifice, made by the sculptor Rainer Hoff. It was controversial, which means it caused arguments. The figure is nude, and it shocked people in the 1930s. The young man is lying on a shield here, and this invites the viewers to think of soldiers from ancient Sparta. Now the walls and the floor are decorated to encourage the visitors to contemplate or be thoughtful about the sacrifices made during World War I. It's designed and constructed to recognise and respect the sacrifice made by those who served in war. Inside the memorial is a place of private contemplation. So outside anyone can see it, but inside only a few people can fit at any time. Okay, so people, let's very quickly go to Vietnam. Remember that the Vietnam War was very controversial, and as part of it, images of United States brutality and the horrors of war were screened as part of news broadcasts every night. So the question was, how should these trips be commemorated? How do we want to remember them? And this is the solution here, and it's designed by sculptor and artist Maya Lin. She designed it in 1972, and the commemorative war was actually completed 10 years later in 1982. In Sac Memorial, it's designed to respect the sacrifice of those who died in war, but it takes a different approach. Firstly, it's a wall and not a building, which means that more people can see it. So this wall is a place of open public commemoration. Secondly, it has a reflective and mirrored finish. Lin actually intended this to create a sense of peacefulness. Thirdly, the actual names of the servicemen who were killed in action or missing in action are recorded on the wall. This was very important to the designer. She believed that humans connect to names, and by putting the names, it made the sacrifice seem more real. The names are recorded in chronological order. They begin at the first death in 1959, and they go to the very last death. And their monument as a whole is about 250 metres in length. So it takes a long time to record 58,000 names. This was also a controversial work, and many people wanted a more conventional statute, but it was supported by the ex-servicemen, and it's immensely popular today. Okay, people, the next slide has some points that are the same and some points that are different to help you compare and contrast the two monuments. Let me know if the points are not clear, and then go on to your main activities. Let me know if there are any issues at all. Thank you, people. It's over to you.